The other thing is that when you have a patriarchy in place, you can have more children. Okay? When women are in charge, women tend to practice birth control because they want to make sure that every child is healthy and every child lives to adulthood, okay? They want to avoid the risk of dying in childbirth. They want to avoid the risk of their child dying young, okay? But with men in charge, they basically get women to have as many kids as possible, okay? Also remember, like, in this world, there's a lot of conflict, so you need as many boys to fight as possible, okay? But then you have a problem then. If you have a lot of children, you have a problem of inheritance. Like when you die, your cows go to who? Right? Now let's assume you have 100 cows. You have like 10 boys. If you are fair and you give 10 cows to one boy, well, very quickly your family is going to be poor. And because in the steppes the weather is bad, your cows are very likely to die. Well, then your entire family could be extinct in 2 or 3 generations. So they invented a new concept called primogeniture. Primogeniture just means that the eldest boy inherits everything. That ensures that the family can stay wealthy. Okay? All right? But now your problem is, wait a minute, if the eldest boy inherits everything, what do the other boys do? Well, they have to go and steal other cows, okay? And to do that, they form secret societies. Okay? Secret societies are just like, they're basically just gangs. Okay? These gangs of young men who get together to do what? Well, they go steal cows and sheep. And what else do? They steal women. Right? Because, right? I mean, like, what's the most valuable commodity in the steppes? Well, cows and women. So that's what you steal. Okay? So this creates a culture of war and conflict constantly. All right? And the third innovation is something called the patron-client relationship. And this is actually or patronage. And this is what allows for the construction of society in the steppes. So remember, in a civilization, you have bureaucracy, you have centralization. But in the steppes, you can't have that because you can't have that many people. So you have a patron-client relationship. And all that means is that it's like the mafia, right? I'm the big brother, you're the little brother. So maybe I have 100 cows and you need cows. So I lend you 10 cows. But now you are loyal to me, okay? I'm the big brother, you're the little brother. And this creates the idea of tribes. Okay, does that make sense? What's really important here is that in civilization, bureaucracy maintains control over people over debt. And so you become a slave. But in the steppes, there's no concept of slavery. Okay? You're still a free and independent person, but you're just loyal to your big brother. So your big brother needs you to do something, you go do it for him, okay? So there's still a level of freedom in the steppes that you don't have in civilization. And that's why they're such good fighters. Okay? All right? So these 3 things are major innovations. Okay? But now that you have these innovations, you need a new methodology to justify or explain these innovations. Okay? And so what they had was they went from the mother goddess. Okay, so mother goddess again is the religion of agricultural people to the sky god. And the mother goddess wants you to be harmonious, okay? To be kind and compassionate. What does the sky god want you to do? The sky god wants you to conquer and exploit, okay? It wants you to destroy. It wants you to kill. It wants you to conquer, to steal. Okay? And also in this religion, horses and cows are very important. But as we discussed last class, here grain and nature are very important. Okay? So you see how this works, right? Okay. Now, what's important to understand is that because this system does not allow for the creation of a bureaucracy. The steppes always practice open, cooperative competition. And it's a system that forces you to be aggressive. It forces you to be independent, okay? And it forces you to work hard. And that's why people of the steppes are the greatest warriors in human history. And that's why when the steppes people encounter the empire civilization, they usually are able to conquer the empire, okay? Does that make sense? Okay? So the steppes are like a training ground for fighters. And over time, the fighters just become more and more fierce. And what's ironic is those fighters who are the most fierce can stay in the steppes. Those fighters who are forced out of the steppes, they go conquer the empire. Okay? All right? It's a constant pattern in human history. All right. Is that clear? All right. Any questions, guys, before I do the PPT? Great. Okay, guys. Yes? So, sorry, can you speak to the mic, please?
So earlier you said that these people, they inherit their to their oldest son, right? So my question is like, is it like necessary for or so they must inherit their inheritance to the oldest son, or is it like they have some kind of a system to determine which son can have the best of their inheritance?
Okay, yeah, so their general principle is always the eldest son, okay? That's to avoid conflict. Because if you open up to say, okay, well, whoever is most brave, whoever is most noble, whoever who's most wise, that means that they'll just fight each other, okay? And this is what happened after the death of Genghis Khan, right? So the general rule is you always give it to the eldest son.
But what if the eldest son has been manipulated by his siblings?
It doesn't matter. Oh. It does not matter, okay? All right. All right, so legacy of the steppes. All right, so as I discussed, what's happening is that Europe at first was just hunter-gatherer, okay? And they were spread out. They did paintings in caves. They had a pretty easy life, okay? Not an easy life, but it was a free life. And over time, what would happen is that agriculture would develop in the Middle East, and it would spread to Europe, okay? And you can see the genetic change where the blue is hunter-gatherer and the orange is farmers, okay? But then what would happen in about 2500 BCE is the steppes people, who we call the Yamnaya actually. So different names, they're Proto-Indo-Europeans, the Yamnaya, you can refer to them as any, okay? Steppes, Yamnaya, Proto-Indo-European, it doesn't really matter. But they go to Europe as well, and they start mixing with the farmers. What's really important for our purpose to understand is this. When the farmers went to Europe, they went as families, husband, wife, children. And so they integrated into Europe pretty peacefully, okay? But when the pastoralists, the Yamnaya, went to Europe, they went mostly as young men. Therefore, that they kill the local man in order to marry their wives, okay? And so basically, from DNA research, we know that it was a genocide, okay? The European farming men were eliminated by the pastoralists, okay? And we have to always remember that the pastoralists, they were stronger, okay? They were taller, and they were more aggressive, okay? All right, yeah, so this is another map that shows the same thing. What you need to understand is this. This movement is global, okay? So the farmers went to Europe, but they also went to India and Iran, okay? They basically went wherever they could go. Same thing with the Yamnaya, okay? So this is the Yamnaya people. They went to Europe, but they also, look at this, they also went to Iran and India. And we know because when we study the languages, Persian, okay, Hindi, and European languages, they're basically the same languages. So we know there had to be one common mother language to them. Okay, so there's another map showing you the Yamnaya. Again, they went to Europe, but they also went to India, okay, as well as Iran. And by mixing with local customs and religion, they created new religions that had tremendous impact on world civilization. So in Iran, they will give birth to Zoroastrianism, which we will discuss later on, okay? And these are the Avestas, which is the Bible of Zoroastrianism. In India, they, of course, gave birth to Hinduism. And these are the Vedas, which is the Bible of Hinduism. We'll discuss this later on in the semester, but I want you to be aware of this, okay? So again, we know that this happened at first because of linguistic studies. When we looked at different languages, we discovered there are common words to them. So let's look at father, okay? When Latin is pater, Greek patris, Persian padar, Hindi pita. Pretty similar, okay? Similar mother. Mother, matar, mitra, madar, mat. So from different linguistic studies, we know there had to be a common language to all of them. And that's why we hypothesize about the Proto-Indo-Europeans. This is an even more stark example where the Proto-Indo-European 2 is Dwa, okay? And you can see how it spreads to other languages in the Proto-Indo-European family, so that you go from Dwa to Twa to 2 in English, okay? So all these languages are interrelated. That's why if you speak one, like English, it's pretty easy for you to learn the other languages as well. Whereas if you speak Chinese, it doesn't really help you when you go learn other languages, okay? All right, now, linguists have done studies of words that are distinct to Proto-Indo-European. And these are the words that they discovered, okay? Bull, cow, ox, ram, eel, dog, grain, cauldron, wrestling, wealth, households, families, clans. These words are unique to their culture. And therefore, we're able to group these words together and discover there are 4 characteristics, okay? First of all, they have lots of words for wheel. They have words for dairy. They don't have farming terms, and they have words for horse, okay? That's why we're able to figure out that these are nomadic pastoralists. Therefore, they must be from the steppes, okay? And then through archaeology and DNA studies, we're able to have a better understanding of who they are. Okay, and as I said, they have to be pastoralists, okay? Because of the way they use words. So let's talk about old Europe before the Yamnaya come and conquer them. Okay, so this is Maria Gimbutas, who is an American Lithuanian anthropologist. And she's the first to hypothesize that old Europe must have been conquered by these people, because she did a lot of archaeology and discovered that their culture was primarily peaceful, it honored women, and it espoused egalitarianism, okay? This is exactly what I said previously. And the Yamnaya people were completely different. They were a patriarchy who had private property, and which was very aggressive, okay? She wrote many books, The Language of the Goddess, and her work is amazing, okay? So if you have a chance, please do study her work. And so let's read what she wrote, okay? So this is the mother goddess civilization, something that we thought we'd discuss a lot in this class. The goddess in all her manifestations was a symbol of the unity of all life in nature. Her power was in water and stone, in tomb, in cave, in animals and birds, snakes and fish, hills, trees, and flowers. Hence the holistic and mythopoeic perception of all the sacredness and mystery of all there is on earth. Okay? So again, this is a religion that practices balance and harmony because everything is sacred. Therefore, you cannot destroy life without first getting permission from the mother goddess. Okay? This culture took deep delight in the natural wonders of this world. Its people did not produce lethal weapons or build forts in inaccessible places as their successors did, even when they were acquainted with metallurgy. Instead, they built magnificent tombs, shrines, and temples, comfortable houses in moderately sized villages, and created superb pottery and sculptures. This was a long-lasting period of remarkable creativity and stability, an age free of strife. Their culture was a culture of art. Okay? So this is a very nice place.